Good morning. Good morning. All right. Welcome. Welcome to the Middle Michigan Development Corporation annual meeting. And I really appreciate everybody coming out tonight, this morning, if I can figure out what time of day it is. But this morning I have the opportunity to introduce Jim McBride, our President and CEO of the Middle Michigan Development Corporation. As the President and CEO of the Middle Michigan Development Corporation, the MMDC, Jim McBride is responsible for developing the strategic vision and coordinating the economic development efforts in Isabella and Clare counties. Prior to joining the Middle Michigan Development Corporation, McBride served for 12 years as Vice President of Governmental Affairs for the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And while at the MEDC, he achieved the successful passage of all of MEDC's top legislative priorities over 12 years, along with 12 fully funded annual budgets for the MEDC. Prior to this, McBride served for 8 years in the Michigan House of Representatives, 99th District, having been first elected in 1990 and retiring at the end of 1998 due to term limits. McBride received his bachelor's degree in political science from Central Michigan University. Fire up. Jim and his wife Kim have been married for 35 years and have 4 wonderful daughters. McBride has received the following honors, and this may take a moment. CMU Centennial Award in 1992 as one of Central Michigan University's most distinguished alumni. Legislator of the Year 1994 by the Michigan Sheriff's Association. Merit Service Award in 1995 by the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe. Distinguished Service Award in 2008 by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Economic Developer of the Year Medalist Award in 2020 by the Michigan Economic Developers Association, and served as President of MEDA in 2021. Please welcome up to the podium James McBride.
Thanks, everybody. It's really a pleasure to see all of you here. We have done quarterly meetings before, and this is our first annual meeting that we've tried to pull together. And coming out of COVID with all of the issues that we've had, this is the largest turnout we've had really for any type of meeting like this. So thank you all for coming, and hope you've enjoyed your breakfast. I want to talk about 5 awardees here this morning that we want to pay tribute to. And we have awards, and we haven't done that before either, so bear with me. This is going to be, I think, a fun part of the program. So I want to talk about these 5 different awardees. The first one, and actually I'm going to have all of the representatives from those entities come forward right now. MAC LTT, Bandit Industries, Not So Shabby Gifts, SBDC, and Chris Rowley, representing the Convention Visitor Bureau, if you could all come forward. The first one is our Business Attraction Award to MAC LTT Stainless Division. Since locating in Mount Pleasant in 2020, MAC LTT's production of state-of-the-art stainless tankers has flourished, with demand quickly outpacing the production capacity at their original location. The company considered making the obvious choice to move its stainless steel operations near to the headquarters in Kent, Ohio. But after talking with us a little bit and the city of Mount Pleasant and the state, we were able to provide a property tax abatement, able to convince them that we had the superior workforce here, and then the state of Michigan, MEDC, Quentin, stepped forward with a $350,000 business development grant, and they decided to keep that operation here in Michigan, here in Mount Pleasant, in the Mount Pleasant South Industrial Park. We're very happy of that, and happy for the jobs that we're actually going to end up with more jobs that were there before in the DACO building, and tremendous investment for the future. So our first ever Business Attraction Award offered by this organization is going to MAC LTT and Mark Upton. So I think we'll this one. Yep. Next, is our Business Expansion Award, and this goes to Bandit Industries. Quentin visited Bandit last October. This company's had a long tenure serving as one of the top employers for our community. Its incredible growth continues today. The company has pioneered premium tree chippers, stump and horizontal grinders, forestry mowers. In 2018, it was an early adopter of the Employee Stock Ownership Plan, known as ESOP, that model which allows for employees to have a piece of the company, which is a tremendous model. Late 2021 brought another major expansion of the company when it announced the purchase and assets properties of the Trelon Company, with 5 more expansions underway, currently totaling, and I think number might be low, 16.5 million, and projected 800 employees by the end of the year. So tremendous expansion with Bandit. We're just thrilled with that. And I want to present our first ever Business Expansion Award to Louis. And come on forward, Louis. Louis Jensen. Next is, now we're going to go for a small business, Not So Shabby Gifts. It's wonderful when we can celebrate a true small business success story in which an entrepreneur nurtures their vision into a brick and mortar achievement. Not So Shabby Gifts not only overcame tremendous challenges that usually face a small business, their owner, Erica Yost, opened the doors months before COVID-19 forced her to completely shift her business model. Still, she was able to overcome the odds as well. Not So Shabby has expanded their offering and services, growing from a small cafe and shop into a primary clothing retailer in the city of Harrison and offering robust online services. So we want to, and also they received a Match on Main grant, and that's through the MMDC of $25,000 just recently. So I would like to present our first ever Small Business Award to Erica Yost of Not So Shabby. Next is our Collaborative Partner Award, and this is going to SBDC, no big surprise there. My neighbor, Tony Fox. Last year, MMDC entered into a partnership with Mid-Michigan Region Small Business Development Center, SBDC, to offer direct consulting to small and micro businesses. And let me give you some background on this, because as you all know, Middle Michigan was one of the 15 organizations that were selected by the state to distribute grants, Michigan Small Business Relief, Restart, and Survival grants, distributing over $9 million over the last few years to small businesses in the area. And so we established a relationship that hadn't been there before. And so this contract with SBDC has really allowed us to formalize this relationship and to continue with that consulting effort with our small businesses in the area. So we just felt that it was really appropriate to have our first ever Collaborative Partner Award go to Tony Fox and the SBDC. And he literally does live 2 doors down from me. All right, this next one is a cool one. People who know me know that I talk a lot about Mike Finney. He was, and this is nothing against Quentin, who is a tremendous leader, and I'm so happy that Quentin is here representing MEDC. Mike Finney recently passed, and he, for 4 years, was the president and CEO of MEDC, and I was a direct report to him, and I learned so much from him about economic development. He's beloved. He's recognized as one of the most innovative leaders that we've seen in the United States and in Michigan. And so I was trying to think of a great way to honor him, and I thought the Mike Finney Innovation Award would be a great way to do that. So who should that go to? Well, there was only really one choice. You know, Chris Raleigh has long been a strong advocate of the Mount Pleasant area, serving as the executive director of the Mount Pleasant Convention and Visitors Bureau for the past 15 years. And more recently, she's led the charge to rethinking what it means to make our community a destination. Not only does this encompass traditional overnight stays, but encourages the community at large to consider what it means to advocate for the Mount Pleasant area. Chris Raleigh is constantly thinking outside the box and coming up with new and innovative ways to promote Middle Michigan. We're very proud to present our first ever Mike Finney Innovation Award to Chris Raleigh. So those are our awards, and we're going to take the pictures at the end. So if you guys want to go back and enjoy your breakfast, let's have one more round of applause for our awardees. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So my next pleasure is being able to introduce my good friend, Quentin Messer. He's Chief Executive Economic Competitive Officer and Chair of the Michigan Strategic Fund. As the MMDC CEO and President and Chair of the Michigan Strategic Fund, Quentin is charged with implementing and executing MMDC's core mission of business development and attraction, community development, providing access to capital, and enhancing Michigan's image and brand with a focus on building a strong and equitable economy for all Michiganders. So in terms of his background, he is currently a member of Governor Whitmer's cabinet and serves on the boards of the American Center for Mobility, Michigan-Israel Business Accelerator, the International Economic Development Council, or IEDC, and Oklahoma University's Economic Development Institute. He was named by the Financial Times as a member of the 2021 Agenda Diversity 100, Crane's Detroit Business, 50 Names to Know in Government 2021, Biz New Orleans CEO of the Year in 2020, Biz New Orleans Business Person of the Year 2019 by Consultants Connect as one of North America's top 50 economic developers in 2020 and 2019, and Ebony Magazine for its Ebony Power 100 as a power player in 2018. Immediately prior to joining MEDC, Quentin was President and CEO at the New Orleans Business Alliance, which, under his leadership, became one of the fewer than 80 accredited economic development organizations worldwide. Quentin also previously served as Assistant Secretary for Louisiana Economic Development, LED. That's their Department of Economic Development. He's an alumnus of Boston Consulting Group, and his degrees are from Princeton and Columbia Universities. So with any further, let's welcome Quentin Messer.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I am happy to be here. I am going, if you wouldn't mind, and before I get into it, I want to take a personal privilege. Jim McBride is a very special human being, as all of you know. And it isn't easy when you transition into a new place. And you need grace, you know. You need to learn how to pronounce certain names in Michigan, certain places. You need to get your hand right, to show everybody where you are. And I'm a Christian. I don't apologize. And it's tremendous to have and be united with strong, integrous people of God. And Jim McBride is certainly one of that, and you can see that in what you see in this room. So can you give it up for Jim McBride and his entire team and what they're building here for you? But on a serious note, so much of what you're doing here today, and I want to, again, give it up for all the awardees. Give it up for that group of men and women who are transforming your community by being forceful actors in the marketplace. But I want to say something, and I'll get into this, but I think it's critical that I say this. It is so important for this region to wrap your arms around what the Mid-Michigan Economic Corporation is doing. I led a local economic development organization, and it is really difficult to galvanize the community on a shared vision of upward economic mobility and prosperity. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of hard work. And I am grateful to the investors here. I ask those of you who haven't invested, if it's $10, $20, $100, preferably larger, but please come together and be part of what you're building here. I want to give honor to our president of CMU. He's doing a very good job in some tough circumstances. Give it up for him, because, it takes a lot to lead a university. And I'm going to, please get on with it, but this is critically important. I want to say this. We in Michigan, since 1950, have not gained a single congressional seat. In the 1950 census, we had 19 congressional seats. In the most recent census, we had 13. As we all know from civics course, there's a fixed number of congressmen and congresswomen, and they are reapportioned by population. And so the challenge for us in Michigan on both peninsulas is to make sure that we can not only retain those young people who come to CMU and go to other colleges here, Alma and others, but we also need to make sure that we're ambassadors to bring our cousins, our nieces, our nephews, our brothers and sisters who believe that somehow out there is better than what we know on, I would argue, two of the most beautiful peninsulas that God created. I say that to say that enrollment anywhere at any university is a function of people. For the first time in America, the birth rate is going down. It's fewer people, fewer bodies. And so if we want this community to thrive, just as we're rallying behind Mid-Michigan Economic Development Corporation, we got to rally around CMU. So I just want to say that. So let me go into this, and if I have some time and Jim allows me, I will answer some questions. So what are we about? What's the shared thing? Enterprise. It is building a championship economy. We are on a quest for consistent greatness. That's what we're all for. That's why these businessmen and women who receive these awards, that's why you're here, because you believe that this community will continue to be great. So I'm a big sports fanatic. So everything comes down to sports for me. And what you will see is that Michigan is relentlessly focused on winning. I want to argue and want to challenge you and say that that's true, and you can see that, and I'm not picking favorites by seeing University of Michigan there, but this was just a summation of all the championships that have been won by our university and our professional teams. We are a winning culture. But I also want to suggest, humbly, as a Michigander by choice, that we've got to speak life into our state. I am tired of people talking about the weather and this and that. I come from Louisiana. Have you ever evacuated from a hurricane? I was born in Florida. Do you know that Miami is sinking into the Atlantic Ocean? Those are existential threats that we don't have here in Michigan. I'm not saying that we don't have tragedy. We know that tragedy in Galen, and we continue to pray for our friends and neighbors there. We know that there are all types of things that we don't know what many of you went through just to get here this morning. But I want to argue that we live on two special peninsulas, and we've got to start talking like that. We got to start speaking that into our existence. We are winners, and I think we need to pronounce that into the world. So what does it take to build a championship economy? You got to be consistent. We got to win in our own backyard, and we have to have a physical and knowledge infrastructure. That's why I talked about CMU and our other institutions of 2- and 4-year institutions here in the state, our K-12 space. We need to also make sure that our small businesses thrive. It takes winning at all levels. And I just want to say for the young woman who one for, was it Not Too Shabby? No business is ever small to that owner. The sacrifices, I can only imagine the stories. If we got her up here to tell her testimony of what it took to build here, it is breathtaking. And that's why we're grateful for the Small Business Development Center and others, because it takes an entire team to create something of significance. And so we have to be consistent about it. This is a placemat slide. I'm not going to read all of it. I'll make sure that these slides are available. But the big picture is there are 6 strategic focus areas. We at MMDC have said we've got to be more regionally relevant. That means being regionally present, and we have to be more customer service focused. We have the 6 focus areas: attract, retain, and grow a business, supporting and grow our talent. That's why we need to partner with higher ed institutions, develop attractive places. You live in one of the most attractive places here in Michigan. Accelerate high-tech innovation. You're doing that at your tech park and that outstanding team over there. We got to market the state. We know about the iconic Pure Michigan. We need something comparable, candidly, on the business side. And we have to support small businesses. No business is small to the owner. We got to get a better name for it. But the point is that if we don't allow creativity and risk-taking to be harnessed here in Michigan, shame on us. And so you've heard about many deals, whether it's GM or Ford, or all these deals. Why does it matter? And it matters, arguably, I would say, because large projects support small businesses. Candidly, a lot of businesses are B2B businesses. They support other businesses. Now, you obviously have B2C, and that's great. That's wonderful. We want to grow those, and we need to make sure that we do more. But the point of the matter, to go back to the beginning of the story, 19 to 13 congressional seats is a function of large company movement. Think about some of the companies that have relocated or substantial operations in elsewhere in this country. We have a chance to bring them back to Michigan. Maybe not bring them back, but to compete and retain what we have here and grow and augment the existing companies, some of them that stood before you earlier today. Place and housing matter. We know about the missing middle. We know about some of the tensions of the companies that recruit talent here. We need to make sure that we have housing here in Michigan. I also want to say parenthetically, and it may not be in the slides, but I want to, this is an important point to note. We recognize at MMDC an important part of our economy, an important part of the place, is our agricultural economy. Michigan is the second most diverse agricultural economy in the U.S. behind California. And we need to find ways to capture more of our agricultural spend here in Michigan. And I would argue whether it's in Clare or Gladwin or Isabella, those are communities and counties that are critically important to the fabric of this great state. And I would just say parenthetically that I am a tremendous fan of one of Claire's favorite sons, Speaker Jason Wentworth. I can't compliment him on not only his service to the U.S. as a veteran, but also as just a tremendous, integrous leader who has certainly mentored me, and I'm very grateful for him. So there is more that we can do at MMDC to support small businesses, those risk-taking entrepreneurs. But this is some of the things that we've done. Because the thing about small business, it's on both peninsulas, in all 83 counties. And these are the programs that were launched during the tragedy of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are continuing to build on this. We realize that we needed to do more and will continue to do more in small businesses. And I would say over the next 30 to 60 days, we will be making announcements that hopefully signal our deep focus and commitment to working with SBDC, Mid-Michigan Development Corporation, and other partners to make sure that we grow small businesses. So this is a bit of an eye chart, but the point of this is to show how many touch points we've assisted Michigan businesses. There's more that we can do. When you're trying to be great, you always know that there's the more out there. And it's going to be possible when we come together and focus on this. But this just shows some of the momentum. PTAC, Small Business Development Center, Smart Zone, Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center. These are vitally important if we're going to have the type of economy that will sustain the type of population regrowth that we need to have in Michigan. I would argue, Senator Ken Horn from Frankenmuth has said it. I agree. He says it in adding 1 million people in the next 10 years. My goal, what keeps me up at night, is how do we get a congressional seat back? Can you imagine? After almost 60 to 70 years of losing a congressional seat, can you imagine what that means? It's critically important because we need to make sure that Washington brings back resources and reflects the values of Michiganders. So here are some of the things that we are accomplishing and have accomplished, but hard work remains. You all know that. You're successful men and women. You realize that there is a satisfaction, there's a gratitude. You thank the Creator or whoever to whom you worship. And we know that gratitude is the seed for the more, but we know that there's always hard work just over the vista. So I am grateful, I'm honored, and more importantly, I am encouraged by you because you are what fuels economic prosperity and growth in your community and statewide. So I thank you. Jim, I don't know whether there's time for questions. If you permit me, I'll happily do so. I may have bored them to tears. This is kind of a quiet group. I'm used to being in more rambunctious places. You're very polite, and that's wonderful. But any questions? Any suggestions? I mean, I'll take suggestions. If you've got ideas about how we can serve you better, I'm taking to. Hey, Nicole, how you doing? Give it up for the head of the Lansing Airport, the capital area airport. Come on, Nicole, stand up. Flying Lansing, that's all right. Hey, Nicole. Questions, comments, suggestions, predictions on how the Lions and Tigers going to do? Come on, Jerome, come on.
I have a question just about coming here from another state,
Yeah.
and with the job that was in front of you, what surprises, if any, did you have compared to, say, your previous experience about Michigan?
It's a great question. So I would say there are three. All the surprises have been pleasant. One, I didn't realize how beautiful the state was. Had no clue. I had been to Detroit a lot of times and had been to Lansing maybe twice. And hadn't been, no, that's not true. I've been to Mackinac Island once. But, man, I had been to CMU actually once. But I didn't realize the totality of the beauty. One. Two, I'm a native of the South. I'm a proud son of the South. And Southerners always talk about Southern hospitality. I can't tell you how much I feel like people will wrap their arms around you here in Michigan. And that gives you energy. I mean, I'll be frank. So let me tell you what happened to me this morning. And I want to ask this friend. I got a praise report, as they would say in my church. So I get here early, getting myself together, right? And I got a couple of texts that Kellogg, headquartered in Battle Creek, had decided to divide itself into 3 companies. And one of the 3 companies is going to move its headquarters to Chicago. And so I was like, man, people ask me, what you going to do about it? Yeah. So I'll deal with that when I get done with this. But, and this is a testimony to Michiganders. I got in here, and a friend of mine from Saginaw Future, stand up, it's my friend from Saginaw Future, came to me and said, and she came, and she didn't even know what I was, the pressure I was under. But she said that God is not surprised. He knew this was going to happen. And he's opening up the way for something better to happen. Do you know how that touched and encouraged my spirit? How that showed me, just when you just need a little, and that's Michiganders. Every time you just need a little something in your spirit, that's what Michiganders do. And the last thing I would say is the relentless focus and belief that we can win. Michiganders are problem solvers. Your businesses solve problems. That's why you're in existence. And you just don't realize how much that spirit is present on both peninsulas. So those were the three biggest surprises. The one thing I would encourage all of you is speak life into this state. I'm not trying to voice my beliefs on anybody, but I do believe we are speaking spirits. And I do believe we set the atmosphere by what we put in the atmosphere. And we need to examine what we put in the atmosphere about our state. We talking about the weather. We talking about this. Do you know we're going to be a climate winner? Do you know that? Do you know relative to what's happening in certain parts of this country, certain parts of this continent, certain parts of this world? We have water. And I haven't taken biology in about 40 years, but I do know enough. That was supposed to be a laugh, but y'all tough, boy. They're like, yeah, you look like you hadn't taken biology in 40 years, too. But, now that wasn't that much of a laugh. I don't look that old. But we have fresh water. Water is the key to life. We have the ability to feed the world, given some of our agricultural ingenuity. And so I just think we need to, we can all buy those sun lamps if we need some vitamin, whatever it is. If that's the least of our concerns, we're doing better than a lot of people. So I think we need to speak that. There was a question back here, sir. Now I'll come right here. Yes, sir. My friend. Hey, Pastor.
We've seen some revitalization in the city of Detroit over the past few years. How do you see Flint right now, and what does it need more to be revitalized?
It's a great question. We definitely see revitalization in Detroit, and many of it has been catalytic. I would argue it's been catalyzed by Dan Gilbert and some of those innovative and risk-taking investments he took initially. We need to continue to support that. I think in Flint, like in a lot of places, you need, and growth in places happens typically in one of three ways. You have a company that has a wealth-creating event. If you think about some of the leading foundations in the world, Kellogg, Kresge, Stillman, Wilson, they're all Michigan-based, and there are countless others, Mott, speaking of Flint, and it was based because companies created great wealth for entrepreneurs and their employees, and then they gave back. So we need that to happen in Flint. I think the second thing that we need to have in Flint, and you're seeing that, is the continued growth of Flint and Kettering, and the fact that those academic institutions in Mott Community College are catalyzing growth and bringing smart people to Flint who get there and say, hey, this is a place where I can build a life for myself. And I think the final thing is we need to come together as Michiganders, regardless whether Democrat, Republican, Independent, no party, and realize we're all we have. And we have to support each other, whether you're in Mount Pleasant or Flint or Escanaba or Marquette or Monroe or Detroit or Grand Rapids. Because guess what? The state to the south could care less. North Carolina, Virginia, South, they don't. Our little squabbles, they don't care less. They're trying to kick us in the teeth and take what we have. Think about this. We have the industry, not only to put America on the wheels, but has some of the deepest supply chains and value chains and wealth creating in the auto sector. We're more than auto. I understand that. We talked about agriculture. We can talk about life sciences. We can talk about semiconductors. But there's a reason why people seek what we have here in Michigan. And I think we have to come together and make sure that we protect that. There was a question here. Yeah, hey,
Hi.
Liz.
Liz, yeah.
Hey, Liz.
Hi. I wanted to go back to your comment about Michigan being a climate winner.
Yep.
From your perspective, what does that mean for us as a state 20 years from now or 50 years from now?
It's a great question. So what I mean by that is you will see, I believe, over the next 10 to 15, maybe even sooner, I'm going to say 5 to 10 years, companies and people will migrate to places where weather is not a business risk. If you go to certain places here in the U.S., you need to be concerned about, is there going to be enough water? And there are a lot of manufacturing processes that are high water and energy intensive. I see our friends over at Consumers, we've got reliability. We've got really good utilities. In Texas, by the way, and everybody loves Texas, and I'm not playing on Texas, but their grid went down during a very minor snowstorm. You think that's a problem for us here? And so as a consequence, people and companies are going to say, let's go where we can take one variable out of the equation. And that's not to say that, Michigan summers are getting warmer. I'm not saying that. But relative to a lot of other places, companies are going. So I think you're going to see a migration. Also, we see the transformation of the mobility sector as more and more of our legacy big three, as well as Toyota, move to other propulsion systems beyond the internal combustion engine. And I think that type of ingenuity will create opportunities for us as well. So that's what in my spirit, I feel that way because I know what it's like to evacuate from a hurricane. And that's stressful. And there are people who are going to make decisions about, look, I don't want to go through that again. And I would say, just parenthetically, the last thing is, when we get reliable, high-speed internet on both of our peninsulas, and in this hybridization of work where you can work anywhere, there are people that say, I would want to work in paradise. And Michigan is one of those places when people discover it that it feels like paradise. Yes, sir, in the back. I can't see your name, so. But.
Aaron, good morning.
Aaron?
Aaron.
Hey, Aaron.
So I think across the nation we have this sort of incentive arms race from economic development corporations in which we're all competing for the latest Amazon placement, Tesla, etc. This creates a race to the bottom in which the state's direct investment in those corporations seems to be less and less in terms of return as we offer greater and greater incentive. My question to you is, how do we address this sort of race to the bottom when everyone's just trying to offer the biggest incentive package to, like I said, a Tesla or an Amazon? How do we address that innovation?
Yeah, I guess I would gently push back on the premise of the question. I don't disagree that certainly incentives matter, but I don't think it's a race to the bottom because it's not always the largest incentive packages that win the deal. I can tell you that from our recent experience, whether it's with GM or with Ford or LG Energy Solutions. But I will say this. If we look at, if we go back to what I said earlier, that I think the number one thing we should do, the thing that keeps me up, is how to make sure we add population in order to have a congressional seat. That tells me that we have to win in 3 dimensions of time. The present, the near term, and then the long term. What incentives allow you to do is to win in the present and the intermediate term. What it also does, done properly, is you should incent first movers. And eventually what you will see is you will create ecosystems that will have a measure of stickiness such that you're not going to have to incent the second or third in any particular category as much as you're going to have to incent potentially the first actors. The second thing I would say is I'm a big sports fanatic. A lot of people complain about the way the NFL is called today. It favors the passing game, right? If you buy that premise, you can either structure your offense to win in a pass league, or you can decide to run the wishbone. I mean, there's nothing saying you can't run against the wishbone. It's just you're not going to be designed to be great running an offense that is not aligned with the rules and times of the game. And the last thing I will say is we have to have an and type strategy. We have to make sure that our rural communities, and you know, we have a great partnership with the Office of Rural Development that was recently launched by Governor Whitmer in MDARD. We have to win at the small business level, and then we have to also win and compete successfully and win our fair share of these large. So it's an and. I think too often when we phrase the conversation, it becomes an or. You know, it's an and. I mean, when I talked about being a Christian, and one thing, if you're a Christian, you believe and you know the bigness of God. So God doesn't really have or in him. It's always an and, as long as you're obedient to him. So that's what I would say, and we can talk further offline, but that's at a high level. Because we know the consequences when we don't win. We know the consequences, and that we don't want to do. Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah, you had mentioned that Michigan is number 2 in agriculture, the variance in agriculture. Will any of these announcements in the next 30 to 60 days have anything to do in extra support for the food and ag industries?
Any of the
The announcements that you talked about the next 30 to 60 days.
Great question. I believe, I'm going to say this, certainly indirectly because they are focused on small business, and many of our agribusinesses are small and medium-sized businesses that are anchors in their community. We are working very closely with the Office of Rural Development within MDARD, as I mentioned. I am getting out to meet with leaders in the agribusiness sector. I go regularly to the ag breakfasts in Lansing and try to do other things. But if you have suggestions or there are particular things, please talk to me about it. I'm getting a hook, but thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Another round of applause for Quinn. Great job, man. Well, this breakfast get-together would not have been possible if it hadn't been for our sponsors. So I'm going to list off our sponsors who are here today and ask them to stand up. Consumers Energy, DTE, Isabella Bank, Fly Lansing, Capital Region International Airport, Mac LTT, Warner Norcross and Judd, Kurt Brower, Huntington Bank, My Michigan Health. Thank you very much. Again, this would not have been possible without your generous support. Thank you so much. And also, let's have one more time of recognizing our award recipients. I'd like the folks from MAC LTT to stand and Bandit. Not So Shabby Gifts, SBDC, and Chris Rowley and the Convention Visitors Bureau. And finally, we also wouldn't be here if it weren't for the tremendous staff of Middle Michigan Development Corporation. And I want to recognize them for a moment, and especially Katie Mora, who serves as Vice President. Katie, would you stand, please? People who know me know I'm kind of a big picture guy, and I need people around me to remind me of the details. And Katie does such a great job at that, and it's been great having her with us. And also, I would like to recognize Sarah Atkins, who is our Claire Director, Jesse Stickler, who recently returned to us. Chase is somewhere in the back. Chase is our intern over the summer. Yep. And Heather is right in the back there next to Chase. Thank you. Literally could not do this without them, so thank you very much. We also have a drawing. So Katie, could you bring that on up? And Nicole, would you join us? You know, this is very generous. Not only is the Capital Region International Airport a sponsor of this event, but they also are giving out a $500 trip voucher to some lucky recipient, and all you had to do was put your business card in. So Nicole? All right, this is going to go to Liz Conway. And we're so happy to have Liz as the head of the chamber here now, too. And then I want to recognize one other person who is related to Not So Shabby Gifts. Tracy Connolly has served for many years as our Secretary of Middle Michigan and recently retired, and so she's going to be pulling off the board, but I just want to recognize Tracy. Okay, I think that's everything, so I hope you enjoyed your breakfast and enjoyed our time together. This is first time as an annual meeting, but we'll be back again next year with this. And again, thank you to our sponsors, and congratulations again to all the award winners, and thank you very much.